Hi there, this is Justin Krane, certified financial planner professional and founder of Krane Financial Solutions. Welcome to Money You Got This. Money, right? It's not just about return on investment, it's about return on life. It's about making financial decisions that make you feel like you could have the best life ever.
Krane Financial is an SEC-registered investment advisor. However, such registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and no inference to the contrary should be made. A copy of our current written disclosure statement discussing our advisory services and fees is available upon request. Information contained herein is for informational and illustrative purposes only, and general in nature. It should not be considered specific financial planning or investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any type of securities or other investment products.
What's up, everybody? This is Justin Krane bringing you another episode of Money You Got This. Super psyched to have someone today. Her name is Kristen Brown. Kristen, what's going on?
Hello. Well, it's Friday afternoon where I am, and it's Minneapolis. It's winter where I am this time of year. So whether you're listening now or in the future, I'm in a blizzard watch today.
Everybody, Kristen has a killer tan in Minneapolis with snow. She's got bronze on and lots of glow. Yep. All right, anyways, before we start, I just want to let you know this show is brought to you by Krane Financial Solutions. I'm Justin Krane. I'm a certified financial planner professional, and I offer investment management services and act as a fractional CFO to dentists and business executives. I'm the author of the book, Money You Got This, and we've got Kristen on. She's amazing. It's time to merge your money with your life. You guys ready? Let's do this. I'm psyched you're listening to the show. I want to give you this free report. 3 things multimillionaires do to grow their wealth. Just go to coolmoneyshow.com to grab it. That's coolmoneyshow.com to grab it. Thanks. I'm bringing out the wine bottle right off the bat.
Yes.
I gotta really tell people who you are, because I've researched you, and I think you're up to some pretty cool stuff. So, guys, why am I bringing Kristen on? She's a founder and a keynote speaker of KristenBrownPresents.com, right? Yeah. She's an experienced and influential speaker who can help take your business or brand to the next level. She focuses on leadership development, relationship selling, getting results, mindset, bringing your team together, and simply moving the ball down the field and kicking some serious bootay. That's right. So, Kristen, you have worked with Fortune 500 companies. You're a speaker. You teach a lot of different topics. Why are you actually doing all this? Like, what's the story here?
Well, I was in corporate America myself for about 15 years and loved it. I served the retail world, so I was on the wholesale side of it, and I did market research, and I traveled all over the world, uncovering and making up trends that I would then go translate to retailers that they would then use those trends to create products and advertisements and things like that to sell stuff in their stores. And it was really fun. It was amazing. And I actually really loved the corporate retail world and what I was doing. But then kind of a twist, a personal tragedy happened. I was actually widowed 11 years ago while in corporate America, high pressure job, high travel. I had a 10-month-old baby. Just a couple months later, the economy tanked. So like, where we all have something that's kind of like a turning point. That was my turning point. And it's been 11 years, so I can talk about it now without being, a big wuss bag, ball of tears. But man, at the time, it took me down, and it set me off on this path of lots of stuff that got me to where I am now, as no longer in corporate, but still serving corporate as a best-selling author and a researcher and a motivational speaker.
So what do you make of, first of all, everyone thinks like they go on social media or they go online and they talk, like everyone thinks that like no one has problems but them. Like everyone has their shit that they go through, and they have to, like, it's like what I've learned, because I got divorced in 2010 and it was so brutal, but the whole thing is about going through it and being resilient and coming out the other side and just being stronger. So, let's get right into your core topic, which is mindset. And I'm just curious, like, I know that you talk about this riser mindset. I want you to talk about that, what it means. And then I want to go a little deeper on it. So talk to us about the riser mindset.
Yeah, well, I think there are so many people, and I know because I've done a lot of research on this in the last 10 years, but a lot of people go through something rough, whether it's, having kind of general day-to-day stress like traffic or a bad boss or a busy lifestyle with lots of kids, things like that. And they don't know how to move through stress, whether it's little or giant stress, without kind of allowing themselves to be victimized, without allowing themselves to kind of be stuck down in that pit of stress. Then there is a smaller percentage of people that actually have what I call this riser mindset, where they're like, okay, life kind of sucks right now, or a lot sucks right now. But they say, you know what? I know that, and I'm aware of it in the moment, and I know it's going to suck, and I have to honor my feelings of whatever is arising, and I know I'm going to get through it. I don't know where I'm going to end up, and it's scary and it's terrifying, and it might be a really bad situation, but I know I have to keep moving through it because it's up to me. Like, there are people that can lower ladders down into the pit and reach down to try to help you, but unless you start to climb, you're going to be stuck down there. So a riser is someone who has embraced that and knows that life is going to be that roller coaster, but they know that it's up to them and they're going to move through it.
That's not easy to do.
It's not. It definitely isn't. That's why it's such a small proportion of people that are able to do it naturally.
It's very, very hard. I mean, that's a lot of inner work. I go to therapy like once a week, like once a week. And it's a ton of work to work on yourself, to get yourself in that position of resilience, picking yourself back up, belief, and ultimately action.
Yeah.
I got to believe it must have been very, very hard for you.
Oh, sure. I mean, the first couple of years after my husband died, I had a baby, I had a high pressure job, the economy was in the toilet, and I stayed in corporate America. I mean, I powered through. My new boss wanted me to travel more and take on bigger accounts. And it was rough. But there came a point about 2 years after where I was like, I got to figure out this new normal. I didn't want my daughter to think back about her mom who was crabby and sad and drank too much and just laid on the couch and watched Friends reruns. I wanted her to think back and say, okay, well, this really crappy thing happened. My mom powered through, and I wanted to be that role model for her. So I found kind of that anchor. And that's what a lot of us are missing is life is so busy and filled with stuff at work. Our to-do lists are overflowing. Our schedules are jam-packed. We've got so much pressure on us that we don't actually step back and say, well, what I'm doing right now in this very moment, like right now as we're talking, and this moment and this moment and this moment will actually determine if the things that I want in the future will actually come to pass. Because we get so stuck in this, okay, what's next? What's next? I'm thinking about what's after work. What am I doing in an hour when I can pour some wine? It's always what's next.
You said two words that I think are super cool. Step back, right? Is take a step back. Can you expand on that? Because I don't think people do that enough, especially business owners and a lot of dentists and just executives. They don't know how to do that, and it's completely out of their world. Yeah, well, and it's the easiest thing to do. I actually do this exercise called work-life mapping. So we're going to do it really quick right now, visually. I mean, usually I have a thing, that we do that's fine. I'm wearing hair gel. I have a tan, and I did some slight yoga before this podcast, so I'm ready to go. You're good. You're ready. Mindset. Okay, so to just step back, it requires literally like 2 minutes and saying, okay, what do I have that I'm juggling on my plate right now? And so many of us, we classify work and life, right? So there's this term, work-life balance. Everyone was saying it in their head. And work-life balance is BS because it actually puts more pressure on us that everything has to fit over here into work or over here into life. We all know that's not the case. Like today, I had a whole bunch of work to do. There was a blizzard, school was canceled, so my daughter is home. She's 12, so she's self-sufficient, but we all know how it is to have a little tiny kid in your home with a sick kid or the weather's bad or whatever. Sure. You have to get work done, so you have to pick and choose at any given moment. So instead of the term balance, I like to use the term work-life harmony because you are like the conductor of an orchestra with hundreds of instruments and decisions to make about how to make everything play nicely together. Everything doesn't all play at once all the time. Sometimes it's just the violin, sometimes it's just the flute, sometimes it's the percussion really loud. And you decide from moment to moment who plays when, what takes center stage. And if there's a day where you choose your child, does that mean you don't value your job? No. Mm-hmm. Vice versa. If you decide, I have to stay home, it doesn't mean you value one or the other more or less. Your child is still super important if you decide to go to work. So
it's all about just saying right now in the moment, what is going to be center stage. And when you step back, when going back to the step back thing, if you want to get a lay of the land, this work-life map that you can create is looking at everything you're juggling and saying, okay, what needs to take center stage right now? Some things are going to have to be quieter and play on in the background for a while. And then something else can come and take center stage while that other thing steps back and plays quietly in the background. And the lay of the land is literally just looking, and you can write it down, you can do it in your head, you can use the exercise that I have dental practices or conferences or corporate teams do. And you literally brain dump everything. And you look at, okay, what am I doing on Monday mornings? What are the meetings I have? What are the volunteer commitments? What hockey practices am I going to? What yoga classes? What therapy sessions? What are my meetings? What are my projects? And you literally brain dump it all. And then you look at what are the 3 things that cause the most drama and stress? What are the 3 things that cause you the most happiness and joy? And you start to shift the balance, not the work-life balance, but the stress and energy balance, so that the stressors start to be minimized and the energizers start to rise. Because when you're energized, when you're happy, your body floods with endorphins. And those feel-good chemicals naturally reduce the way that you respond negatively to stress, which then helps with this riser mindset we talked about. So that was a lot of talking that actually took more than 2 minutes, like I said it would. But the point is, stepping back, lay of the land is literally a brain dump of everything you juggle and making the decisions more wisely so that your time is filled with stuff that energizes you, fills you up, rather than the stuff that takes you down.
So I'm going to talk about my struggle, because I see it with my clients as well, both dentists and business owners. And I think that, like, we need sometimes as business owners, me definitely, a reframe to just think about something totally different, doing it in a way that's completely foreign to us, so it can open up a whole new paradigm for us on doing something. Mm-hmm. Oftentimes I'll work with a client and say, you know, I'm a money guy. I act as a fractional CFO. Like, your margins are too low. You're spending too much on staff. Your profits aren't where it needs to be. You aren't doing the right tax planning. And that's all like noise to them sometimes. But I bet if they spend 15 minutes doing your framework and then I said that, they'd be like open to receive.
Mm-hmm, completely.
So, you call it work-life harmony?
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah, it's just a different way to think about it, because balance just tricks us into thinking we're, you know, we're so evolved because I have work-life balance. Most people don't. Most people are like, how do you get everything done? And the social media thing that you talked about earlier, you know, we have a certain image we put out in social media, and the comparison trap happens, and so pretty soon all of this intention we have of stepping back and saying, okay, what should I be focusing on, gets usurped by the comparison trap and saying, oh, so-and-so's on vacation, or so-and-so does business their way, or we've been doing our business this way for so long. But here's the thing, what works for one person isn't going to work for you. You have to find your own path, your own energizers. We all have different stresses, different resiliency levels.
So do you think this is why a lot of business owners, and I don't want to always harp on dentists, but like, there are happy dentists out there, but there's also a lot of dentists that feel stuck. I found, especially the ones like in their late 40s to late 50s, where they're trying to like think about getting out because they're a little bit burnt. Is this why you think they're not happy and they feel just like blah?
Well, I think dentistry, because I do a lot of work with dentists, and the dental industry in general is so high demand because you're servicing patients. You are having to be on top of all of the legalities and law changes and privacy laws and things like that. And it's interesting because when I've done surveys with different dental practices, and I do a lot for the Association of Dental Office Managers, they always tell me that there's an issue with communication and politics in the office. And people are like, what? Well, I mean, they're just working on patients all day. Oh no, there's so much that goes on behind the scenes. So as a dentist or anyone that works in the dental field, you're serving so many masters that you've got even more things that you're having to plug in and juggle and decide what's going to rise to the top because of all those different masters that you serve.
I love it. Like, I mean, I always talk about this. It's out of my wheelhouse, the communications and leadership and all of that. I mean, that's you. But we look at the line item of the staff on the P&L and like it, not just dentists, endos, perios, and just, you know, attorneys, whatever it is.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a beef with staff. And I'm not saying that it's the staff's fault.
No.
Oftentimes it's the business owner's fault because they don't even know how to communicate. And they're like, oh man, you know, it's just not working out and all of that. And I think that you really did nail it on this communication. So
yeah.
how should people, let's talk about the business owner. How should the business owner communicate with their staff as a leader, as someone who's like a good person?
Well, I think one of the challenges is in those types of industries. So attorneys, dentists, financial advisors, sort of those entrepreneurial roles that are actually, they're business owners, but that's not actually their job. They aren't trained to be leaders. They're trained to be a dentist. They're trained to fix stuff in people's mouth. So the dentist who owns the practice, he or she actually isn't trained as a leader. They aren't trained to look at communication, and they may have a class on it, you know, in dental school or whatever, but that's not where their expertise lies. So the business owner, in this case, dentists or attorneys or whoever we're talking about, they really need to get serious about their self-development, because if they can step back, you know, from their practice, and I know I get the pushback I get is, well, I got to make money. I got to, you know, I got patients, I got clients, whatever. But you're not going to maintain those patients because you're not going to have a staff that serves them well, because the culture is going to suck and people aren't going to keep coming back or refer their friends and family to come to that practice, because the leader isn't being the role model to get the training, to get the insight to themselves, to provide training for the staff, to send their staff to different conferences and things to get the training that they need in order to communicate with each other well.
Yeah, you know, one of my big words, like I used to call it my word of the year, but it's my work in progress word that I always try to come from. And it's hard for me, but like I'm doing it, is empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And I also think that if the business owner can have not only empathy with their staff, but with their clients,
Mm-hmm.
it's a really solid relationship. It's something that I'm coached on. I still, you know, like go back to like my other way, but you know, not like being like rude, but just not having that sense of understanding and compassion.
Yeah.
And I think the business world needs more of that. And I don't think there's that much training on that. And I think what you're talking about is great. So let's say someone's listening and they're like, this is good, I need this. What would you advise them to do? Where could they go to get more from you?
Yeah, they can go to my website, KristenBrownPresents.com, and they can check out stuff. I write articles on LinkedIn every week, Instagram and Facebook. I have daily, almost, different motivational posts and things like that. I do videos, I do challenges. I have a couple of best-selling books. One's called The Happy Hour Effect, which is all about stress management and some of the things we're talking about here with the work-life map in it. I do a lot of leadership and personal branding training with something called the Spectrum of Awesome, which a lot of dental practices like and need because of cranky resting face and some of those things that come out when you're serving patients.
Yeah.
So.
That's awesome. That's very, very cool. So we'll have that in the show notes. Let me ask you a business question. So you speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Corporations bring you in. Do you also train teams?
Yes. Yep. So I'll do like the big giant, you know, keynote at a big conference, but then teams from sizes. I mean, the smallest group I've ever done is a group of 3.
Yeah.
You know, up to, you know, practice size or, you know, groups under 100. And we'll just really dive in and we'll look at, you know, what are some of the issues that you guys are having, and we'll customize the training to exactly what they need and look at how the application will work for their industry and their challenges.
So I know that you do market research.
Uh-huh.
I do market research, but I also like to make notes of things that I've seen, and then that's my own research, my own data.
Totally.
What happens when you go out and you work with someone and they implement, but then in 6 months or in a year, like they fall back to what they were doing before and they don't have that sustained performance that like you wanted them to have? What's going on there?
Well, it's because I'm not going to get nerdy, but because the neural pathways in our brain have to be continually, like a river, carves through a canyon. To get that path, it has to do it over time to maintain that path. Our neural pathways are the same way. So to continue carving in those habits and make them stick over time, you can't just say, oh, I'm going to, have a daily workout session every morning, and you go for 3 weeks and then you fall off because life got busy again. You went back to your old routine. You have to figure out what else is going to change around the new habit so that you stick to it, because the new habit in itself isn't enough, because you're breaking an old habit that you need to fill the void on. So you need to do a lot more work than just, oh, I'm starting something new. You have to figure out how you're releasing the old as well.
So how do business owners maintain that sense of accountability in keeping the stuff that you're teaching them? Should it be an outside person? Should it be like the front office manager? Should it be a spouse? Should it be a partner? Should it be like, I don't know, reading? Or like, how do you stay accountable? This is part of the reason why I'm in masterminds and have coaches and all that. Like, I know what I need to do.
Yeah. We all do. We all know what we need to do. We all know we should not eat as much sugar. We shouldn't drink as much. We shouldn't, we should exercise. We know what we have to do. It's just doing it. The thing is, all those things you just mentioned, they all are good and they all work. It's figuring out what works for you. And I know people are like, well, that's so generic. Tell me exactly what to do. Yeah. I can't tell you exactly what to do because you, Justin, are different than me, is different than the practice manager you talked to this morning. So every person needs to be willing to experiment and figure out, what are my issues? What do I need to do? And I always tell businesses that when I work with them, that you should have multiple ways that your employees can develop themselves. So, book clubs, if it's something that's a little bit softer where you don't want to demand they do something, ongoing training, having them listen to a podcast over lunch, doing pre-roundtable things at your staff meetings, sending your staff to conferences. There are so many practices that I work with, whether it's attorneys or dentists or whatever, where their staff never gets to leave that little small office. Yeah. How do you get perspective? How do you look at the industry? How do you look at yourself if you're stuck in those four walls? So get them to the different conferences for your industry. There's ones for office managers. There's one for hygienists. There's one for all the different roles within your office. There's a conference for them. Let them go. Pay for that development.
I love that
it's
stuff.
So motivating.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's move into money, because it's in my wheelhouse and a lot of people listening as well. Why do you think business owners, why do they not want to deal with their money? What's going on at the core? And what would you say to someone who looks like, oh, I know I need to deal with it, but I haven't, and they're putting it off?
Well, on the work-life map, there's actually a whole section on work and money, because those are the top two in every research that's been done by any researcher in the world, from large to small. Work and money are the top two stressors in every survey. And people spend so much time at work that they start to think about their value at work in terms of money a lot of times, and vice versa. So money and work start to define who they are. And there's so much research around keeping up with the Joneses and, why we're in this debt crisis we are in the United States and around the world. And, we're spending more than we make. And, the Dave Ramsey School of Thought, like you got to pay off your high interest debt, things like that. People start to attach their internal self-confidence and value to their money. And if they start to look at issues with their budgeting or that they're overspending, it starts to make them feel like a failure or like they're an idiot or like they made bad choices. And humans don't like that. We don't like to take responsibility. We don't like negativity. We don't like to feel pain. So naturally, if something that we've done is stupid, we're going to avoid that at all costs. And 95% of the time, money problems are caused by our own stupidity, right?
Yeah. So it's like, if I can't see what's going on, there's no problem there.
Right. Yep.
Yeah. So what I find, Kristen, is that people will do that until a point where it gets really, really serious. Yep. And they need to deal with it like there could be a death in the family, a partner leaving, a big financial loss, some life change or a tax surprise. And they're like, wow, I really need to get my act together. I need to deal with it. And then they're all in.
Yes. And that's what it takes is whether it's with money or anything, if you don't feel the pain more than the pain of tackling the problem in it anyway, that pain is the only thing that's going to drive you.
Yeah, because I think like if you don't deal with your money, eventually your money is going to deal with you.
Yes.
Like it is.
It is. And we could get super spiritual, but like just this morning on Pinterest, there was a quote that popped up that said, the universe is, until you learn your lesson and make a change, the universe is going to keep poking at you and poking at you until the pain is so big that you have to make the change.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the way that I view it for business owners is like the success of your business is going to fund your personal goals if you're a business owner, right? So you have to make good money and create cash and profits in your business so that you can do all of this stuff with your personal money. If you can't do it over here, the money's not going to fall from the sky for you to pay down your mortgage, pay off debt, invest for your future, whatever. So it's like if you get clear on the business money and feel like you're in control and you own it, it's going to open up this whole new way of life on the personal side.
Yeah.
And I just wish people would think like that, like they have more control over what's going on.
Frustrating. How do you find your, I want to do a role reversal. I'm going to ask you a question.
I'm now guesting on your podcast.
How do you think, because it's kind of like health insurance, right? Buy health insurance just in case, or stop smoking because then you'll live 10 years longer, or, eat better and it's going to add 3 years to your life. How do you see business owners and their future money goals, because it's not happening right then, it's happening 10 or 15 or 20 years down the road? Do you think that impacts the decisions they're making now?
Yeah, 100%. I think that a lot of people, like some business owners are more spenders and some business owners are more savers. The savers don't want to invest in their business and don't see an ROI on that. And they want to save, and they don't even want to go on vacation. Like they're more like just hoarding money. Yeah. And then when they're 82, they'll have $7 billion and be able to sail off in the sunset with a white unicorn drinking champagne and all that BS. Yeah. The spender people they're just throwing money away. They don't believe in their own self-worth. And they don't want to deal with the fact that they're not going to have enough money. I think that a lot of business owners need to decouple their view of money into understanding that they have personal money and business money, and that they have to diversify away from their business. Because if they don't, and they can't sell their business, well, that's a whole nother conversation we could talk about one time. They're leaving millions of dollars on the table if their business isn't saleable. Yeah. So I think it's important for business owners to have clarity around that and really have what you're calling, or what I'll call, the riser mindset. Yeah. I just think it's huge. One last question for you around performance, because we talked about it a little bit, but I know you have a lot in this area. Why do you think business owners will perform well for 3 months, and then they'll have this lull where they'll just go back and they won't sustain a level of high performance, and then they'll just drop off and they go back and forth, but they can't create that new normal? Yeah, the roller coaster of entrepreneurial life. We all know it. We all hate it, but we all do it. Because when you're at those highs, your body's filled with the endorphins, right? Feel good chemicals, and you're like, oh my gosh, I totally am killing it. And so you start to, keep chasing the high, but while you're chasing the high, you're also looking for other types of pleasure because you've got more money. So you're probably spending more. Maybe you're going on more vacations. So you're getting the endorphin hits from multiple places when you're up on those high, when you're rolling high. And then slowly the business the things that cause the endorphins in your business start to subside. And our bodies literally start to go into this addiction detoxing mode. And we're like, oh God. And then we don't feel mentally or physically well. And we just stop working as hard because we're trying to figure out our own slide. And it's often too late. And then you get into the pit, and then you kind of realize okay, I see what happened here. I was complacent in this area while I was going on all these vacations, or I was spending too much money on whatever, or I was chasing this other high while I was on the high, and you ended up low in the business. And so then you have to chase your tail again to get back up high again. And so it ends up being this
literally your physical state impacts your emotional state, impacts your mental state, impacts your productivity and your performance.
So what do people do? What should they do? If
You
someone's
have,
feeling like they're going through what you're saying, how do you get yourself on a sustained path of kicking some serious butt?
you have to ensure that the endorphin hits, the feel-good chemicals, those things are creating those neural pathways in your brain regularly, as long as you're getting those endorphin hits. So you have to ensure that the endorphin hits are being created by multiple paths to create the neural pathways in multiple ways. So you need to have an endorphin hit from working out to keep that habit going. You need to have endorphin hits going for your work routines, that you own your morning. Maybe you get up every day and you make 5 business calls, and you totally own what you're doing business-wise. That's going to create the endorphin hit and that new neural path there. You want to have a neural pathway built for a love relationship, your spouse or your partner, so that you're always getting those endorphin hits there in various ways. So you can't just have a high that you're chasing this feel good. You have to have multiple paths of endorphin hits to keep the roller coaster from being like this, and to keep it just a little bit more like this.
Okay, so I have a challenge for you, because you should do this. It's work, but I think you'd be great at it.
I'm scared. What are you asking
And
me
this
right
is,
now?
we're recording on a podcast. But this is why I do this, because I want people to just listen. We're just talking and hanging out, and people are learning off of us as we riff off one another. You should do a daily something.
Yeah. You know why I don't do that?
What?
You know why I don't do that? Because of the high stress of having to create a daily something, and then it creates my roller coaster.
Yeah. Okay, but here's the deal. Because I know someone that does a daily meditation, and she's great, and she's gotten so big because it's daily, and you can listen to it, and it's like 4 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
If you could create something that was daily for 2 minutes around, sustained performance, leadership, mindset, all of these things that we're talking about, I would listen every day, and I'm sure my people would.
Well, guess
and then
what?
What do you got?
Guess what? I have not even announced this to anyone, but I actually am launching a whole new brand called the Power Shot Experience, which power shots are things you do in 2 minutes or less to change your physical state that then boosts your emotional state.
Yeah, I love that. I don't even know, there's got to be, there's, somehow, I don't know the technology around it, but phone, I don't know, it's just something that you could click play on. Is something that's really, really easy for people. I think it would be really, really cool. And I think you'd end up helping a lot of people. And I think when you make your presentations, you're speaking in front of 4 million people, and you're like, text Kristen's amazing to this number, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They text it when you're on stage, they get something back, and boom, they get their power shot. And it's
Do I have
not
to
even
pay you a licensing fee for this now?
No, you know that stuff. I don't have to tell you that. You know that. But I think that would be really cool for you, and I would listen as long as I remember, and it's something that pops up.
Yeah, it has to be a reminder.
I would.
Well, I think business owners, that's what they're actually needing to build into their businesses for their teams too. Is what is the daily inspiration and motivation that a dentist is giving his entire team, or an attorney is giving his entire team? What are leaders doing on a daily basis to give their team those endorphin boosts and help them create the new habits?
Very cool. So when you record these every day, are you going to get all dolled up like you are right now, or will you be in a t-shirt and PJs?
Oh, they'll be t-shirt and PJ days for sure. I don't have enough energy to sustain dolled up every day. I look like this all the time. I wake up like this.
Oh yeah. When you help your daughter out, you just look like that. It's easy.
Right.
Snowing, blizzardy in Minnesota. Done.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's been great to have you on. Give us the link again where people need to go.
Yes, it's Kristen, Kristen, brownpresents.com. Website, Instagram, Speaker Kristen on Instagram. I do a lot on there. If you want to see pajama shots, that's where you're going to want to go. Facebook, I'm all over the place. LinkedIn is my favorite place to share research. So
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I'm looking to forward to be hearing from you daily.
All right. Well, you've motivated me. I'm going to go write down some ideas. Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
All right. Have a question? Want to get in touch with us? Need some help and advice with your finances? Just go to coolmoneyshow.com and reach out to us. That's coolmoneyshow.com.
Krane Financial Solutions is an SEC-registered investment advisor. However, such registration does not imply a certain level of skill or training, and no inference to the contrary should be made. A copy of our current written disclosure statement discussing our advisory services and fees is available upon request. Information contained herein is for informational and illustrative purposes only and general in nature. It should not be considered specific financial planning or investment advice, or a recommendation to buy or sell any type of securities or other investment products. No investment decision should be made based solely on any information provided herein. We do not provide legal, accounting, or tax services. We recommend that all investors seek out the services of competent professionals in any of the aforementioned areas. Certain information provided has been obtained from third-party sources that we believe reliable. However, it's not been independently verified and is not guaranteed.